Hello, and welcome back to the Marketing for Learning podcast. It's Hannah here with you today, and I want to talk to you about a phrase that we use quite a lot within Maths and the Marketing for Learning podcast, and what it actually means for an L&Dr. We often find ourselves telling people to take their learning hat off when trying to understand their target audience and their processes. But when running the Marketing for Learning masterclass recently, I realised that's quite a hard task to grapple with when you've worked in learning and development for such a long time and you are very focused on thinking things in a certain way, with a certain lens, and from a certain angle. That doesn't mean that because it's hard, we're not going to do it. So in this podcast, I'm going to give you a few top tips on how you can put yourself in your audience's shoes and really start thinking about your offering, your journeys, and the way you communicate with people from their point of view rather than learning's point of view. All right, so my first tip isn't going to be a surprise to anyone who's listened to the podcast for any length of time, has ever spoken to myself or Ashley, has been on the Marketing Masterclass, has even looked into Marketing for Learning. Because my first tip is talk to your people. There is no point you making assumptions about how your people interact with your learning, how they operate, how they do their day-to-day job without talking to them. When we create learner personas, we do a really in-depth market research phase. And that does mean getting focus groups together and talking to your audience one-to-many. I'd recommend those focus groups being around 10 people max. Maybe you can push it up to 15 if you feel comfortable. But ask those people very general questions regarding learning, work, what challenges they face, what barriers they face to getting involved with learning, what it's like to work at your organisation, how they feel about maybe your organisation's culture, how they deem that they're doing well at work, what makes them realise that they've been really successful, both inside of work and outside of work, what kind of things grab their attention during the day, what things are distracting them from the day job. Have really open-ended questions and really get to know what your audience are going through at each stage. Once you've done that really, really in-depth and open research phase, you'll have such a better understanding of who your audience are, both as learners and as human beings. And once we know them as human beings, then we can really improve the experience, improve our marketing, improve our learning so that they actually want to get involved. Of course, you can't tailor your learning experience or your marketing to each and every individual employee. So that's where learner personas come in. Your learner persona should have very, 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 very little to do with learning. Your audience are not motivated by bite-sized content. Your audience do not have a goal of completing your entire learning library. Their pain points will not just be associated with your learning platform or your learning tech in any way. Their goal might be to get a promotion, to get a pay rise, to provide for their family, to have better work-life balance, to climb the corporate ladder, to explore a different field within the business. They might be motivated by the people they work with. Maybe they're motivated by their children. Maybe they're motivated by that holiday they've got coming up. Eyes are on the holiday. And maybe their pain points are about red tape, hoops they have to jump through to get the job done, constant change management, the cost of living crisis. Your people's wants, needs, fears, pain points, the things that make them them, what makes them get out of bed in the morning, It's very, very rarely ever going to have anything to do with learning. And we need to bear that in mind. Another way you can really get to understand your audience and how they're interacting with your products, so for you guys, that's your learning offering, is by shadowing them. So let me give you an example. In my first job, I worked for a brand called 123 Reg. It's part of the GoDaddy group. And we were fortunate enough to have a huge marketing team, and we had 2 user experience experts. We were redesigning our website, and they'd put a lot of thought and research into how it was going to be laid out, what changes they were going to make. And the first thing they did was got the whole marketing team together. Most of us hadn't really even seen this new design of the website or anything to do with the new website. And they gave us some tasks. So they sell domain names. So one of the tasks was to go and purchase a .co.uk domain name. And they watched each step we took, each wrong turn we took, each time we clicked on the wrong button thinking it would take us somewhere. They watched it. They then reran this task with a group of selected customers to see how they operated with the site. So they tested it in the first instance internally and then externally. Why don't we do that with our audience as learning professionals? All too often when I'm in focus groups, I have people tell me, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to find anything. But then when I talk to the learning management admin team or the L&D team, they say, oh, it's really obvious. Where is that disconnect? And how are we going to find out that disconnect without shadowing people? They don't know what they don't know, so they can't tell you where they're getting lost because they can't find the end place. So why not grab a group of maybe 5 to 10 people and sit down with them, invest that time. Ask them to find a piece of training on X topic on your learning platform and watch them. You don't even have to do it live. You can ask them to screen record. I'm sure there's software out there that does it as well. Understand what your audience thinks is an intuitive journey versus what you're assuming is an intuitive journey, and make the journey more simple for them. It's a great, great way of really understanding what's going through their minds, what's challenging them, and it's a great way of lowering the barriers to learning. And that's what we all ultimately want. If we lower the barriers, our engagement rates are going to go up. So definitely think about shadowing or watching people try to interact with your learning products as a user, not as a learning professional, not as somebody that understands the world of learning platforms, learning management systems, and all of the nuances that come with that. All right, so what else can we do to really get to know our audiences on a deeper level? So we've got speaking to them, novel idea, and we've got shadowing them, so watching them utilise and engage with our learning products. The other area that I think is often overlooked in L&D and marketing, but we're talking about L&D here, is audience complaints. And I know we don't like that. We don't like knowing why people don't like our hard work. But that actually is a goldmine of insights into the challenges and pain points of your audience. When people tell us, oh, I haven't got the time to join, why don't we say, oh, what is it that you're working on at the moment? Open-ended question. Let us know if it's a project that's grappling their attention, or is their manager not really giving them the time? Just understand a little bit more about them in that sense. If somebody comes on a training program and absolutely hates it and sends a really grumpy email to your learning team, it's easy to just mark it down as experience, ignore it, put it in a box, file it away. But dissect that complaint. What are they complaining about? What are they saying to you that they expected that you didn't deliver on? What are they saying they expect from a learning team at an organisation like yours? So often, we are told exactly what we need to hear, but we almost always ignore it. So dig into some of those complaints, some of those grumbles, some of those off the bat comments. Oh no, I can't do that. I ain't got the time. Oh no, I can't do that. It's a waste of my time. Think about what that actually means. Ask people what they actually mean by these flippant comments and see what insights that can give you into understanding what it's actually like to be a member of your audience. And my last tip is quite a practical one. When I'm filling out decision-making journeys on behalf of personas, I kind of talk out loud to myself. Yeah, if you didn't know I was weird, I'm a little bit weird. But I would literally say, for example, if I'm thinking in the awareness stage, I'll say, what would loyal Lydia be doing in the awareness stage? What would she be thinking about? And I really think out loud. I almost bring the personas to life in my head like they're a character in a TV show. I really think about their character that come to life in the key traits and the personality profile. I think about the typical things that I'd assume people would be doing in that stage and what that would mean for that persona. So for example, if you have loyal Lydia that's an HR professional that is incredibly motivated and is always looking for ways to develop herself. Well, in the awareness stage, she's probably reading articles or browsing LinkedIn, following gurus that help with personal development, professional development. She might be looking on the intranet to see if there's anything she can get involved with at work. Maybe she's talking to her manager, but she's definitely trying to do the day job incredibly well. Always trying to impress her boss, making sure that she's getting really great performance reviews, and just really hitting all of those goals that her boss has for her. By saying that out loud and thinking about it out loud, I start to picture this person in my mind, and then I can also pick up when I'm kind of projecting some of my assumptions onto that person. Often when I'm working with learning professionals doing this, they'll say, oh, so she's really motivated, so that means she's searching the learning platform. And I can categorically tell you that if the person's in the awareness stage of their funnel, they are not searching your learning platform. Fact. They are doing a lot of other stuff. They haven't even thought about coming to you guys yet. So talk to yourself out loud. Or, if you've got a better internal monologue than me, maybe you can do it without sitting and talking to yourself and looking a little bit crazy. But really articulate what that persona is, what their objectives are, what their personality traits are, and how that would impact what we think they're doing at different stages of the journey, how they will interact with different things that we put in their way. So I hope you found this podcast useful. I'm aware that I was kind of rambling about what I do to put myself in the audience's shoes. But when you hear Ashley, myself, or anybody else in this realm saying, take the learning hat off, this is what we mean. We mean stop thinking learning first. Stop thinking about your platforms and retrofitting them into your audience. Think about your audience. Think of them as human beings. Think about what they are doing in their day-to-day lives and how we can help them. That's essentially what we're here to do, isn't it? Help them learn and develop. That's why we're here. So start thinking more human-centered rather than learning-centered and see how that changes the game, not just with marketing, not just with communications, but with your entire learning function. As always, if you have any questions, comments, want to discuss, want to disagree with me, you can find me on LinkedIn. But if not, I'll see you on the next podcast, guys. Bye.